Live from the City of Angels, Sunday morning, midnight movie money. We've gone all green just like the cast this weekend for Superman, which ended up with a debut that was, I think, impressive for DC. I mean, listen, they're in a place where they really need something to hit. Obviously, James Gunn taking over and wants to build out from here. You're looking at $122 million on the domestic debut. On the global bow, $217 million. Now, as we go through the show here this morning, welcome in here live to the City of Angels. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about this in relation to Man of Steel, relation to the Batman, relation to F1 internationally. That's interesting. A lot of stuff to discuss. We'll go under the hood here in moments, but just a quick snapshot of 122. Now, the thing that is a little concerning for me is that the weekend multiple was not as high as you'd want on this film. What does that mean? That means that Friday number, you multiply that to get to the weekend. And when you look at the Batman, the multiple it put up, basically matching Superman's opening day, it got to $134 million. This only gets to 122. That tells me word of mouth is not that great. You guys know I'm not a huge fan of the film, but we're not talking about that this morning. We're talking about the box office, but that does play into it, right? If people are disappointed in the film, then it's not going to bounce as high on that weekend multiple like we are seeing. Now, also, when you look at Man of Steel, right, it opened at 116, but back in 2013, they did not add in that Thursday night preview number. So when you add that in, it got to $128.7 million, and we're at 122. So that means that we are under, obviously, that movie. And what's important as we look at that is that that's 2013 cash. So that's a lot more tickets sold because the price of tickets was less and inflation, all of that adds into this is a weaker opening than Man of Steel. That is objectively true. If you do not like that, I have news for you. Facts do not care what your allegiances are. So don't come in here. We're not that channel. We're not playing that game today. I'm spitting facts at you. One more time, facts, F-A-C-T-S. That is what we're talking about here. So don't come in here trying to spin stuff. It's not what we do. But when you look at this, we go directly to the Warner Brothers email, and I will get you all of the under the hood details here on this Sunday morning. Thanks for being here. As always, like I said, it is a pleasure to do this. Let's get it bigger so you can see it, and I can get myself smaller. Do you guys like the new graphics? I mean, obviously you can tell it's a different show than the Sunday Evening Spectacular or one of our evaluations. It just looks totally different. That's what the point was. 122 on the domestic, international 95. That's a little worrying. More on that in a minute. 217 on the global. Superman is the sixth number one opening of the year for Warner Brothers. Their fifth movie in a row with an opening weekend over 45 million. You've got Minecraft, you got F1, you've got a number of films that have done very well for Warner Brothers this year. Sinners, right? Warner Brothers had the number one and number three openings of the year. Minecraft, 163, and Superman is now the third largest. And they wanted to, as they say here, win back the trust of DC fans. And indeed, they have enthusiastically embraced our first entry in an exciting new theatrical universe. So this is the PR spin. And you'd expect that from the studio. And as we look at this, you can see that 47% of the business came from IMAX, Dolby, and those PLF, premium large format screens. 3D, 13%. Real D was the leader there. Top 10 locations for Superman. AMC Burbank, 1, 2. AMC Lincoln Square, New York City. Regal Irvine, 3. That is down in Orange County. AMC Empire, New York City, 4. 5, AMC Disney Springs, Orlando. 6, Regal Edwards Marquis, Houston. 7, AMC Universal right here in LA. Number 8, AMC Garden State, New York. 9, Regal Kendall Village, Miami. And 10, Regal Atlantic Station, Atlanta. Top 10 DMA, LA, New York, Dallas, Chicago, San Fran, Houston, DC, Toronto, Atlanta, and Philadelphia. That is your under the hood snapshot of the domestic cash. Let's go to the international highlights, and this is where it gets a little bit dicier because we did not match the domestic. We only got to 95. Okay, IMAX produced 30.4 million globally for the film. So that is, again, another sign that IMAX is the format of choice for moviegoers. Latin America was big for this film, and that is where I think most of this money comes from. Let's pull it down and look. You can see the UK was number 1 at 9.8 million. Mexico, 8.8. Brazil, 5.9. Australia, 5.3. China, 6.6 million. Now, what I want to mention with that China number of 6.6, I went back in because I am ultimately the number 1 film reporter in this space and also evaluator. Because when you do this, you have to be talking about facts and numbers and objectivity and journalism, all that stuff. When I talk about evaluation, I stay as objective as possible, but ultimately it is me rendering a verdict subjectively, even though we're better than anybody else. But when you look here at F1, look at F1's debut in China, 9 million. So Superman does less cash in China for the debut than F1. So that's why you watch Midnight Movie Money, because we're giving you those details that a lot of people are not talking about. I just broke that down for you. We'll talk about F1 in a moment, but that's the snapshot on Superman as we look at Man of Steel. Now, as I mentioned with Man of Steel, back in 2013, they did not place the Thursday preview cash in with the weekend. Now what you have is all of the studios take that Thursday night or early afternoon money and you roll it into Friday, and it becomes part of your 3-day weekend. Well, back in 2013, they didn't do that. So the 3-day debut was 116 without the Thursday. But when you add the Thursday, there's the number. Do you see it? 128.68 round to 128.7. So this is under that. And again, with inflation, it's substantially under because we did the math. Remember, for this film, Superman, to get to the worldwide cash that Man of Steel made in 2013, you'd need to make the equivalent, essentially, of $930+ million now. And this film's not going to get there. There's no chance. I mean, I called this many, many weeks ago. This is not getting to $1 billion. But a lot of you are like, oh, it's going to get to $1 billion. Guys, there's one ace. And I can tell you right now, you're not on the mic like me because that's why we are the gold standard. Called this forever ago. Now, Deadline seems to think, just looking at their stuff earlier this morning, this is the ceiling for Superman minus an additional character such as Superman and Batman, right? Go back to that. That did 160+ million on the stateside debut. So we'll see what the plan is to unfurl this. The problem is that, as you guys know, Matt Reeves' Batman does not fit into James Gunn's Superman universe. Like, these are two completely separate entities. You talk about different tones, right? You look, Zack Snyder's Man of Steel would have fit into the Batman universe, but the Batman does not fit into James Gunn's Superman universe. That goofy film, cringy film. Oh, sorry, guys, this is box office. I didn't want to do it. I'm not going to do it today. We're not going to do it. But I'm going to pull it up so you can see it one more time, and then we'll move on to F1. I'll get to as many comments as possible. But again, Objectively, this is under Man of Steel, under The Batman, and the multiple this weekend is not as strong as you want to see. That's it in a nutshell. All you need to know here. Now, here's the good news for Superman as we get ready to hit the second weekend. We look ahead. Why not? Because that's what we do. And you talk about Fantastic Four. Now, listen, Fantastic Four is not coming until 2 weeks. So right now, when you look at Fantastic Four, there's a little bit of space to operate because next weekend you have I Know What You Did Last Summer, the reboot, and then you have Eddington, which, come on, these are two films that are not going to do and should not do any sizable damage whatsoever to Superman. So this film needs to hold at a very strong number or it will be even more problematic because there's no excuse such as another film came in and ate away all of our available audience, right? And I understand that when you look at this in a head-to-head against those two films, it's a joke. But Fantastic Four, on the other hand, could benefit from this film not flying quite as high as you might want to see. I think it really depends on how great that film is. We will have a live first reaction stream on that coming up next Monday. That's when the word starts leaking on Fantastic Four. But there is some space to operate. Let's talk about Jurassic World Rebirth. And I go to the email. Give me 1 second to get it because, of course, I was not prepared for this one. When you look at Jurassic World, over $500 million now on the global cash. So obviously that is successful, but we are not getting to $1 billion here. There's a 0% chance we're getting to $1 billion. This thing was down 57% this weekend here stateside. When you look at the global snapshot, you can see it here at $529.5 million. And that is halfway to $1 billion. I think this thing's going to end up in the sevens, which means we'll probably still get another one, even though we need a break. We all do, don't we? Can we have just a slight refractory period from the T-Rexes and mutant dinosaurs? Please. But worldwide here, and you can see the international coming in at 297, the domestic at 232. So the international is greater. Superman, the opposite, right? F1, in a moment, we'll check that out. That is killing on the overseas cash at nearly 2-1. But Jurassic World Rebirth is still ahead, international versus domestic, but this will fall short of Dominion. This will also fall short of $1 billion without question. Let's go to number 3, F1 at $13 million this weekend, down 50%. I'm going to pull in the international numbers along with the domestic, and you can see exactly what I just talked about with the nearly 2-1. Let's call it 2-1 international. 136.2 on the domestic, international 252.2. A great hold again this weekend, minus 34% because F1's way bigger overseas. My hope with this film was domestically it could hang in there and do repeated weekends with minimal drops. Didn't happen, okay? That's why my prognostication that this could beat Superman globally did not happen. Because, look, if the domestic were up to even 200 million, we'd be at 450. Now, I still think Superman gets to 500 plus. I'll tell you what, guys. You guys think Superman's going to 7? I don't know, man. I think you need to downgrade that. So you see what I'm saying? That guess prediction on F1 beating Superman is not that insane. It just didn't happen domestically. But internationally, it's going to beat it. Very likely. Because it's still going. So there we go. F1 almost at $400 million. Again, just really disappointing that stateside cash did not pop like I expected. And let me tell you, the big takeaway here this weekend that you guys have to understand when we discuss all of these numbers is that as you are, I am a massive fan of going to the movies. Obviously, that's all this channel does. We don't talk about Andor. We don't talk about She-Hulk. This is all theatrical news and views about going to the movie theater. When you look at a film like Superman that comes in under Man of Steel, forget about the head-to-head and the Snyder versus the Gunn shit. Talk about the fact that fewer people are going to the movies. That is what you need to focus on. That's the thing. You know, all this tribal bullshit back and forth on Twitter, it just gets really old. Ultimately, the number one thing you need to concern yourself with is that fewer people are going to the movies. We're seeing it with Jurassic World. We're seeing it in the F1 numbers domestically. And the only way to even have a shot at correcting course is what I've told you months and months ago, and I'll hammer it again tonight when I go after Adam Aaron for the 550th time. This man gets paid millions. Some say maybe $20 million a year as the CEO of AMC, and he still has not taken a stand against the studios putting these films on digital in 17 days. Day and date back in the COVID days. No. We need a 60-day window installed now. I will be your theatrical Windows enforcer. Bring me in. I swear to you, I'll get a deal done within 48 hours. Max. You play hardball. But they're not doing that. So until that happens, we are going to see diminishing returns because people know they'll just hang out at home and wait. Why wouldn't you? There's no hurry. Let's pull in the top 10 here on this Sunday morning. Thanks for being here. As always, a pleasure here as we do Midnight Movie Money. Let me make it bigger. And we got the top 10 in front of you right there. I do want to mention How to Train Your Dragon was number 4, minus 31. Elio, minus 32 at $3.9 million. That film still isn't even at $75 million here stateside. It did hold in okay, but I mean, it's not anything that Pixar ever wants to discuss after it leaves theaters. Superman is your number one film of the weekend as we look here at the box office top 10. Again, 122, location average 29,500 per. Jurassic World Rebirth, minus 57 on the weekend. That is concerning. It's another sign, like I talked about moments ago, with movies in trouble. People are not going to theaters as much as they were in the past, obviously, and you've got to start making better films. Jurassic World Rebirth, not a great film. Superman, definitely not a great film. F1 is the best film this summer without question. Number 3, minus 50%. It has $136 million stateside as it is just not holding in here as well as I expected or anticipated or hoped. How to Train Your Dragon is number 4. Now with 239.8, it's at $550 million plus worldwide. Elio, number 5. I mentioned the stateside only at $63 million. 28 years later is around $140 million on the worldwide. It's number 6. Number 7, Lilo and Stitch. Lilo and Stitch is like $5 million away from hitting $1 billion. So what's going to happen is they will make sure Disney will, whatever they need to do, they will shove that across the finish line of $1 billion because the press of Lilo and Stitch or any movie hitting $1 billion is priceless. So they will, if they have to, fund the screenings themselves. Seriously, why wouldn't you? You get the headlines. For them, it's nothing. Let's just pump $5 million into tickets, and then we get our headline. $5 million for an advertising campaign, essentially? Nothing. Who thinks like this? Let me help you with that. Nobody. That's why we're the gold standard. Number 8, Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. $580 million worldwide, almost identical to Dead Reckoning Part 1, and that we call, by the way. What did I tell you when I came out of Mission Impossible Final Reckoning? I told you it's not a great film, and it's probably going to match the last one because it's not as exceptional as it should have been. If it were a really stellar, elite, best of the franchise kind of finish, then we could be talking about a much higher, but it's just not. And that's why we matched the last one. The same people who saw 7 saw 8. Basically what happened. Let's focus on number 9 for a moment because it gives me a chance to trash Jason Blum here this morning again. Jason, let me go ahead and highlight this for you because I know a lot of the Hollywood folk like to watch the MMT, especially the box office, because we're very objective. And this is objective too. So if Jason doesn't like what I'm about ready to do, I got news for you. There's 2 words, 2 and bad. Are you guys ready? This film, Megan 2, is at $22.3 million after 3 weekends. That is less than Megan made its opening weekend. This film will not reach the debut weekend of Megan. And we are here for it. Megan 2 is one of the trashiest, garbagiest sequels I have ever had the displeasure of sitting through, and the fact that Jason Blum genre swapped this film that was a fluky hit and is paying the price and now has to answer for years and years of serving up gruel, dreck, refuse from Blumhouse. We finally have the comeuppance, and that makes me very happy here on this Sunday morning. Number 10 is Materialist, which is now at $35 million for an A24 adult rom-com, more of a dramedy. I like that film. I do. Listen, it's a lot better than many of the films we discussed this weekend. Materialist is your number 10 film of the week. All right, couple of comments. We're out of here. Thanks for being here. Do you guys? Here's number 1. I don't care about anything else. I just want to know, do you like the new green graphics? I don't care about anything about Superman, and I'll get Superman. But just tell me right now, do you appreciate the minutes I put into creating the green graphics for the new Sunday morning Midnight Movie Money show? Thank you. You better. Superman won't surpass Man of Steel. No, of course not. It's not going to get to 600 million. And remember, not only will it not get to 600 million, that is not what that cash translates to in 2025. No one wants to talk about the inflation calculator, right? How things cost. Give me a break. Are you really going to tell me? Let's talk about rent. Let's talk about mortgages. Let's talk about the price of Diet Mountain Dew, which I buy. Today's Mountain Dew Zero. I mean, everything's through the roof. You're telling me that 2013 cash is the same as 2025? Hell no. Remember, we did that math. 660, whatever Man of Steel was, 660, is like 930, 940 in current cash. This film won't get to 660, and it's definitely not getting to 9, so this is what I'm talking about. I don't care if you're a Snyder bro or if you're a gun sympathizer. The end result is this: we have fewer people going to the movies, and that's the issue. We already see theaters going by the wayside all over the place. Not here. You know, that's the thing, right? LA doesn't have the problem of losing theaters because we're in the movie capital of the universe. Everybody here goes to the movies. What was the number 1 location this weekend? AMC Burbank. Because that's my home theater. Every theater stacked. Doesn't matter what it is. The most niche A24 neon film will be nearly sold out. If you take that and go to Dayton, Ohio, like Eddington next weekend, have fun being the only person watching Eddington in Indianapolis. That is what I'm talking about. So to look at the problem of fewer people going to movies in LA, it's doesn't manifest. You don't see it. So that's why this is important. So get your tribal bullshit out of here. I don't play that game. I have no allegiances, and you shouldn't. Okay? When we're talking about these things, you should not have a dog in the fight, right? Because it sounds like I do when I say that Superman is not a great film. But when I went in to watch Superman back on Thursday, I, as always, go in with the scale balanced back to 0. So don't tell me that I went in there with any biases or agendas. That's not how I operate. So ultimately, once it's over, of course, I have to give the full evaluation/reaction to the film. And that comes from my objective viewing of it. when we look at these numbers, they're numbers, and you cannot argue these things. So that's how we present it. And I'm going to roll out of here because I'm off to the beach to play some volleyball today. I'll be back tonight. We'll talk more about Superman. Hit me with your comments here on this. If you're on X, go to YouTube. Midnight Movie Talk is the channel. This is Midnight Movie Money, as you can tell with the green. Tonight we'll go back to the pink. Everything will be back to normal for this Sunday evening spectacular. Thanks for being here on this Sunday. See you back here tonight. Peace out. Enjoy the rest of your week.